Lieutenant Governor Karen Polito presented the Madeline Amy Sweeney Award for Civilian Bravery to 38-year-old Paul Galati of Easthampton, who entered a dangerous house fire and carried a wheelchair-bound neighbor to safety in May. This annual award honors a civilian who demonstrates exceptional bravery without regard for personal safety to save the life of someone in actual imminent danger. On May 15th, Galati said he was watching TV when suddenly he noticed smoke coming from a neighbor's home. After hearing a voice inside, he courageously entered the burning building. He found a wheelchair-bound man who was trapped by the flames. He lifted the man from his wheelchair and carried him to safety. Fire officials determined that Galati's quick action saved the man's life and prevented a tragedy.